Welcome to the Vantage West Cybersecurity podcast, your front line for staying informed, alert, and one step ahead of today's digital threats.
Welcome to Cybersecurity Awareness Month. My name is Jim Jenkins, Vice President of Information Security at Vantage West Credit Union. I'd like to welcome Jerry Keeley from CISA. Jerry, could you share a little bit of your background in cybersecurity with the audience?
Sure. Thank you, Jim. So yes, my name is Jerry Keeley. I'm a cybersecurity advisor for CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency of the Department of Homeland Security. That's a mouthful, so we use CISA. I have been with CISA for just under 2 years. Prior to that, I was the Chief Information Security Officer for Pinal County Government, just north of Tucson here.
Great. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. The topic that we're going to be talking about today is multi-factor authentication. And wait, before you click away, this is something that is very important, and we'll break it down so that you really understand what multi-factor authentication is and how it can help make you more safe as you're going through this Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So maybe we just start there, Jerry. In simple terms, what is multi-factor authentication?
It's really as it says. It's a second factor, okay? So your username and password is something you know, right? And something the criminals know, unfortunately. And then the something I have is the second factor. So it could be your phone via text or an app. It could be an RFID device that you can hold on to and register. And but basically the point is that the odds of the criminals having your username and password is very high, but having them have your username, password, and a device like your phone in hand really exponentially reduces the possibility of somebody getting into your account.
So it makes it almost impossible for someone to log into your account if you have your password, which is something you know, and a second device or a device, which is something you have. Criminals, hackers, fraudsters aren't going to be able to necessarily have that, right? You've got
Correct.
It in your hand. So when we start thinking about multi-factor authentication, or I think the abbreviation a lot of sites use would be MFA, what are some of the challenges in getting MFA set up for your particular account? And what are some of the recommendations that CISA might have in doing that?
So first off, if the site offers the ability to enable MFA, is what it'll usually be called, please turn that on. Yeah. And then they will have their method. So it could be simply you put in a phone number and it'll send you a text. Super easy to set up. Some of them use authenticator apps, and those you usually bring up a QR code, one of those square box codes that we see on restaurant tables nowadays.
Sure.
And you take your device, your iPad or your phone, and you take a picture of that QR code, and it will bring you over and add that to your authentication app. Then going forward, when you go to log in, it's going to say key in this additional code, right? Whatever you were texted or whatever the code that shows up on your authenticator app. And it's usually a 6-digit code, and you just key that in.
Okay. So if I have that extra step then, and somebody tries to use my username and passwords, which you said are available on the internet to a certain extent, especially, if the site I'm logging into has been hacked and all of that information sort of went over to the dark web. Right. MFA, or your ability to have that second factor, is really your protection kind of across the board. Do you have an example of when, MFA, when you identified where there was potentially a hack coming against you or the people that you work with, and what did that look like? Just kind of share that.
So
that story.
A very simple event was that I got an authentication request on my phone that I was trying to log into a website, but I wasn't. So that wasn't me, which immediately let me know that somebody had my username and password and were trying to authenticate. Now, of course, I didn't authenticate it, but what I did do is I immediately went over to that website and changed the password to something very complex, something I've never ever used before, to make sure that I can stop them at the front door. So that factor actually saved me from that person getting in. And if I hadn't had that factor, knowing that they had my username and password to get to the authentication factor, then they would have been in my site.
So it's almost a notification or an alert that someone is trying to hack your account, and they have your user ID and password.
Correct.
That's where it gets a little bit scary for people, right? You don't want to allow people into your network. And then you had mentioned right away going in and changing your password, making sure that that's updated. And if you haven't watched the video or the podcast that we've done on strong passwords and passphrases, we'll link it in the show notes here to make sure that you have the ability to see what does a strong password look like. So when you do go in and make that change, you can go ahead and make that a strong password. But let's get back to the multi-factor. Are there cases that you would prioritize using a multi-factor? Should we use it across everything that we do? Or are there some guidance that you can provide the Tucson community on when to use it and when not to use it?
So your priority ones would be anything that has to do with your financials. So of course, your banking should always use multi-factor. Anywhere you've stored a credit card, right? Any of your purchasing sites, your Amazons and whatever, your information's in there. So you certainly want to have that multi-factor going on there. And then your social media, because that is your reputation. If somebody were, including criminals, were to get into your social media account and start pretending to be you and sending things out and bad things, or even crimes, performing crimes, it goes right back to you. So you want to protect your social media because that is your identity cred that's out there.
Yep.
But anything that has monetary, if it's just for data consumption, something you go and you look at a news feed, or you're reading recipes online or something like that, I wouldn't prioritize those as much.
Right. Although you're using a unique password for each one of those sites, because you don't have some, how do they say, some reputation to lose or some money to lose, it's probably a lower priority.
Yes.
Okay. Got it. I think there are some challenges in getting multi-factor authentication set up. I've talked to a number of people that aren't quite sure, and you kind of walked us through some of the ideas. Are there other guidance steps that you have for using or implementing multi-factor authentication and then using it as a regular part of your cyber hygiene?
So depending on which authentication app you choose, right? Spend a little time. They usually have help videos. They'll have maybe a help desk you could call or something like that. They're generally fairly easy. It's harder to get through that first one. Once you've gone through the process of doing that first one, then it really is suggested that you might as well just go and spend some time and do all of them. Why not? It's fresh in your mind exactly what the process is, and try to get as many sites and areas behind your multi-factor.
Yeah. Is it good to use the same multi-factor, or does it matter if you have multiple multi-factors for the different websites?
Well, some sites don't allow multiple. I mean, certain sites drive which multi-factor you can do. So some of them will just allow a text message. That's all. And they don't offer the ability to integrate with a second factor.
Yeah.
So you will find yourself, as you're doing this, probably having multiple multi-factor solutions, only because not every website supports every multi-factor that's out there.
So more apps on my phone.
More apps
for the use of different sites. As an example, this one site only allows this multi-factor authenticator tool to be used. This other site only uses this other one. So now I've got a couple of apps that I have to get set up. And I think your guidance is spot on when we start talking about get the first one on there. Take a look at how, and that process is relatively similar across all of the different multi-factor authenticator applications. So
usually,
I'm trying to standardize that, I think. Let's bring this back to the family then, and start a little bit of a conversation around: are there things that a family, parents working with their children should be thinking about with multi-factor? Do kids need it? If so, what are the challenges or what are the guidance items that we can provide for parents?
Well, it'd be kind of the same thing. Those of you that take the time to look at our password conversation, we cover this. Is one thing is first of all, to look into a password keeper that you can share with the family as well. Because you brought up something else is if you have multiple multi-factors on your device, on your phone, how do you know which one you need to go to when you're trying to log in? It's coming up and it'll give you that enter the 6-digit code. It doesn't last forever. You got like 45 seconds to get the code. So again, in your password keeper, in the notes, you would put down which multi-factor agent that you're using, so you know which one to go to for that. But then that also having those conversations with the family about, again, going to your password keeper. But that conversation is your passwords, your strong passwords, your custom passwords, as well as understanding that secondary factor, it is part of your identity, and really trying to instill that, especially with the young folks, but with anybody, is having your identity protected behind more than just a username and password is always recommended whenever you can, because again, it's your identity, and these criminals, they don't care. They will use it in any way, shape, or form that they can. So anytime that you can protect yourself, instill this with the kids, your username, your password, your multi-factor, your identity is yours, and it's yours to protect, because you got the criminals who are experts 24/7 trying to get into it. So we have to do our best on our side to try to stop them.
Yeah, and let's face it, I think the kids are going to pick it up a little bit quicker than maybe some of us that have been around for a little while. Like I like to say, the generation that invented the internet, and I think they'll pick it up relatively quickly. So, want to thank you for joining us, Jerry, for this conversation around multi-factor authentication. Try and set it up on all of the sites that you have. Utilize different multi-factor if that's required. The first one is the hard one, and then use it as an alerting and notification. If somebody's trying to get into your account, they're going to trigger a multi-factor request. And if you see that and it wasn't you, definitely make sure that what you're doing is changing your password and fixing the problem before it actually becomes a bigger problem. But thank you, Jerry, for coming to visit us today and for providing a lot of guidance around the multi-factor and during Cybersecurity Awareness Month.
Thank you.